Here we are, spotting the bottom left of Stormgate Sundays number 5, not tank. Stormgate Sundays number 5 in the bottom left. He's the Infernal player. It's Yoru, and his opponent in the upper left side in the blue, playing Vanguard. The number 2, the number 1 active Vanguard player on the ladder right now. His name is Refresh, or Refresh if you decide to speak a little bit differently. I don't know. Anyways, Yoru's going to be going for double vault in this game number 1 as that's just, again, that's how he's going to choose to play. It's funny, right? We talk about double vault and he's like, oh, wow, 2 production structures before an expand. This feels like it should be aggressive. And you do have aggressive options. We saw Yoru do this to JXP 123 yesterday, where you have a bunch of stuff, you run across the map, and I can type and write at the same time. There we go. You run across the map and you hit with a bunch of brutes and a bunch of fiends, and you just try to snow over your opponent as quickly as possible. And that is absolutely a valid possibility. But because you're not mining any Therium whatsoever, and I know I talk about this a lot, but I think it's valid to talk about. Because you're not mining any Therium, it actually is very good for your economy. That right now, though, the brutes are going to get taken down at this aggression from Yoru. He's on single barracks, not double rack, so he does have room behind this, but he's doing a really nice job of creep jacking this. And remember, Lancers, unless they're surrounded, are very good against fiends. They're effectively fire bats. You know, they do so much splash damage to a degree that is almost surprising when you think about it, because you look at these, you're like, oh, these are zealots. You know, they have swords, they fight, but the splash damage is actually really significant. So for right now, Refresh fighting around. He's not going to completely creep jack this. He's going to try, but he's not going to completely creep jack things. And now fiends with the speed buff, they're going to look for the surround, but retreating in good order. Refresh not interested in getting himself surrounded, not interested in losing everything that he really has in the game right now. So again, you retreat in good order. He's doing a very nice job of not losing a single Lancer. They're also very promoted. Level 3 on this Lancer, levels 2s on the rest. They've killed a lot of stuff. And also, it is Central Command, so we have seen some promotions go down as well. It's not just this, wow, they've been promoting really well. They've been, you know, killing a lot of things and not dying. Oh, my category is Monopoly Go. That was left over, and that is, there we go. Let's set the category properly. We are, in fact, Stormgate streamers on this blessed day, not the other thing. That'll be later. For now, though, 4 Lancers are now going to show up, and they're going to kill the Hexen, which actually matters quite a bit. That shuts down a lot of the, that shuts down a lot of early pressure potential that you might otherwise have as we see these big promotes again go down. So yeah, level 3 Lancers, 400 HP, but only 17 available right now. So you do have to be careful, and I don't think there's a way out of here. I don't see a Bob cutting anything through on the north side. So these Lancers, well, actually, as I say, there's no way out. Well, there is that healing fruit in the main base that I always forget about. And that means that this Lancer, 200 HP, a bunch of armor, 30 armor. That's a lot of effective HP. That means you have a, what is it? It's 1 over 1.3. Like, it is a significant, or 1.3 over, yeah, you 1.3 times as much HP. There we go. So it's quite a bit. As for now, we're going to see 1 Lancer go down. Again, you're just ring around the rosy, looking for as much as you can find, and eventually trapped into a corner. There's not going to be much of anywhere for Refresh to really do what he wants to do. But back at home, again, taking these roughly positive trades. These Lancers are low, but they can retreat right back on into, you know, into the healing camp, and then very unlikely that they're going to die. This one, yeah, there we go, gets kited away. So again, Refresh doing very nicely here. And behind this, he's got his natural done. He's got his kinetic redirect on the way. He's a pretty happy boy. Now, of course, Yoru is developing more. Yoru is developing just a little bit more. He's got his 3rd base on the way. That's actually going to give him Therium, which is super important, by the way. But I'm kind of worried about this attack. Now, Lancers are going to put themselves into a choke where Fiends maybe not going to get the surface area that they otherwise would, as he micros around, making sure that even if the Fiends get some level of surface area, not as much as they would like, but still, there's not a lot here, and there's no buzzsaw turret. This has been a very greedy Refresh in this game number 1. So he's going to lose every single Lancer, and just so many Fiends, so many brutes just running up the high ground and causing all these problems. There's not an overcharge available either. There's just the energy's not available right now because, well, promotion has been spent. So the Bobs are not extra tanky. They don't do more damage than Lancers do. And that just means that Yoru is going to run right over this. If there was a buzzsaw turret, this is an easy hold. If there was a buzzsaw turret, if there was a turret, you put a Lancer inside of it, you're fine. And as it stands, this is not impossible necessarily, but it's not good. This does not feel good, even as there is a third base still mining. So Refresh has that thing going for himself. And this sentry post, a sentry post before it's complete, is paper. Absolutely just a paperweight. It does not stay alive. So that is awkward. Refresh, again, spending more energy on these promotions to get these Lancers able to fight. He hasn't lost a lot of Bobs. I think that is kind of the key story right now. This looked really bad for Refresh. It really, really did. But he, I don't know that he's starting to stabilize necessarily. And these Bobs are all getting very low. So we're going to have to see some repair tech go down soon. But yeah, Bobs are now starting. I was going to say, you know, this isn't all that bad. The Bobs have, for the most part, they've done a really nice job of staying alive. But no, they're starting to go down now. There's no mass repair tech. So the Bobs are starting to fall. And these Lancer counts, yes, you have kinetic redirect, but look at this natural. Right, the biolab is going to fall down. The third base is still kind of mining, but yeah, he's still building. But yeah, he's still building Bobs out of these command posts. So you know, maybe he's got an Exo. Again, this Exo's not going to have quick draw, so it's not going to be incredible. But at the end of the day, as this Exo, again, is going to continue to have to kite away, running away from these fiends. And, you know, Exos are expensive, so you do want to keep this thing alive. Well, okay, Exo's going to stay alive here with a Lancer and an Exo, and he's just very low Bobs. That's going to be okay. The defense is managed in the main base, I think. I think this is stable. Well, I was gonna say I think it's stabilized. I don't know. It's only a single barracks is the problem. There's not really a lot more. This Lancer is so low, and there's no sentry post, so there's no turret. And because there's no turret, there's really nothing that, I mean, this Lancer's gonna die. The Exo's gonna die. Now there's another Lancer here. Okay. And yeah, no. Refresh is dead. This is Cope. As we take a look at where we're going right now, there's a fourth base on the way for Yoru right now. The natural's dead, and now there are Weavers showing up in the main base. So these small micro battles that have been pretty cool, that you know, that Refresh has been doing a reasonable job trying to salvage. You do not kill Weavers with small micro battles. It just does not happen. So Refresh is gonna fall down, and game one goes the way of Yoru. So game one, Refresh was looking pretty good, doing a very nice job, just playing around with the HP of his Lancers and doing what they can, you know, finding value there. And until eventually it didn't quite work out, and he lost a bunch, and then didn't have a turret, and he died. Got a little bit too greedy. But now we're into game two, and game two on Boneyard. Certainly, Boneyard is a very different map, and I was expecting him to overcharge his Bobs and go take his natural very quickly, but Refresh seems to be of the school of like JXP, where he says, yeah, I actually like getting a little aggressive. I'm going to build this barracks. I'm going to run across. I'm going to use this to creep, and then I'm going to take my natural eventually. But I want to have that constant Lancer production a little bit earlier on into the game. Now, there is a cool build that we've seen Mixu do. I want to say it was Mixu, where you go and you get like your first Lancer, and you creep with like Lancer Scout Bob. Something like that. But you sell your barracks immediately afterwards, so you can get your natural pretty quickly anyways. It's very cool. I don't know if that's what Refresh is going to go for, but again, these are the optimizations that I am such a fan of, because again, I think certainly Vanguard players, yeah, Albino, that's what it is. Thank you, Albino. That's the old Albino does that build. Mixume too, but yeah, it was Albino that I saw that did that. Thank you, Jay. And it's super cool, right? I think that is one of the things that is kind of unexplored in this matchup right now, or just in general in Vanguard, where, of course, if you're playing Vanguard, you can go and you can sell out. You can't sell your command post. At one point, you could. Oh, so this was in pre-alpha. Again, things weren't totally fleshed out. You know, the guide rails weren't necessarily there. So the scout is gonna fall down. Unfortunately, that doesn't feel all that great. But anyways, I was playing Chicken Man. We were testing, and I convinced him as, oh, this Lancer at minus armor is in a bit of a pickle right now, just not sitting in the health zone, not healing up, and well, that's awkward. But anyway, so I got Chicken Man into a game, and I said, hey, you know, you can sell anything. Did you know you can sell your command post? He said, oh no, but I can try. Let's try. So he sells his command post and immediately loses the game. It was beautiful. For now, though, so this was, well, we certainly had Lancers out, sure, but this is a Hedgehog build coming out of Refresh in this game. Number 2 is the bike helmets are out in force. So it's going to actually be Hog Lancer. Against some players, you'll see like Hogs and Dogs, a reasonable amount, but this is going to be Hog Lancer. And, well, we're going to see exactly how this is going to turn out. But for right now, again, use kind of round. You do bonus damage to Brutes. That's going to be really nice. You don't handle Fiends, and that's where the Lancers come in. But you do bonus damage to Brutes, and you can just continue to poke here and cause some problems. And Jay saying, I was told that this is the famous Refresh build. I don't know anything about Refresh outside of the fact is, oh man, I don't think he got to snipe that. That Parting tells me he's very good, and he's certainly at the top of the ladder. So that's what we're going for. And he may have gotten that second Night Demon, that second Shadow Demon. I don't know. I'm actually not sure. For now, though, again, you just kind of wait. And you're like, oh, yeah, I got Lancers to tank here. I have these Hedgehogs, and they do bonus damage to things. We did see... Actually, no Lancers went down. One got promoted instead. The Skull made contact, but now this is a little bit awkward because the armies are very separate. They're chasing separate objectives. Yoru, he's got a lot of Fiends on the other side of the map. And what do we have here defensively? We do have enough energy for an overcharge. There is one Hedgehog here, and one Hedgehog does not answer this, but there's going to be a Lancer done soon. And that should be fine. Meanwhile, on the other side, Lancers and Hogs getting into the natural, causing problems. I want to say the Hexen has died as well, and I'm pretty sure that is the case. So it is just Brutes versus this army, which is just not a good army. Brutes and Fiends versus this is just not a good setup. So Lancers have found their way into the Luminite line. They're getting damage done. You got to be careful on the Fiends on the backside. That is a problem. The surrounds, even against units that technically counter the counter, surrounds are still scary. So these Lancers are gonna fall down for the most part, but Refresh finding a lot more value in game number 2 than he ever did in game number 1, and more Lancers they continue to rally across. These Hedgehogs are still doing a lot of damage, and I think it's gonna be very difficult from here on out. I think it is gonna be very difficult for Yoru to stabilize, because right now we're looking at 4 Hogs, and he doesn't have Gaunts. There is no Shroud Stone. There's nothing to really keep you safe. There was a time, by the way, when every Vanguard player was just playing Hedgehogs. He was playing Hogs and Dogs or just Hogs. This was about a year ago. Hedgehogs were very good, and their bonus damage was even stronger, and it was just pain. So you would go and you would build a Shroud Stone, buttressed by a couple meat farms in your main base, in your natural, and you would just try to get up to Gaunts and hope to win, because it was pain. We're not seeing this now. Again, certainly Hogs are not as strong as they otherwise were, but the truth is still there. As you do need Weavers, you do need Gaunts. The Brutes just die to all these Hedgehogs. It's just not very good. So Yoru will have his first Weaver out. Greater Shrine's done. He has the money for it now. He was able to save up enough, which means that he's okay. I love, by the way, that Purple Chatter, we had Mr. Lean Flakes, we have Sword SC2. They're just very good at calling immediately. Mr. Lean Flakes at the end of the game 1 saying, yeah, I don't know why Refresh is still in this game, and he left pretty much as soon as Mr. Lean Flakes said that. And then Sword saying, no Weavers are crazy to me, as the first Weaver arrives on the map. So, you know. Purple Chatter supremacy. Behind this, where are we going, though? So, more barracks getting added in. Certainly the mech bay has not been sold. And we got Quick Draw Hustle on the way. Do we have Kinetic? We do not. So this is straight into Exos behind this. Of course, Exos are a bit weird into this composition because they are bonus damage versus heavy. And Weavers are light units. But the important thing to consider when we talk about these Weavers is not, or Exos versus Weavers, is not their damage bonuses. I think certainly Exo damage bonus is pretty significant. But more importantly, it's the fact that they have range. That they're able to kind of poke around a little bit and be much happier against these Weavers than the Hedgehogs are, right? That are just a little bit closer. They don't have transonic rockets, so there is that. And, well, not really here just yet. Certainly we do have the effigy getting dropped. It's not a good one. It's only a 5 HP effigy, but Weavers have 4 lashes in their pocket. They're going to have a couple more very soon, and that just means that these Hedgehogs, they can't really take a straight-up fight. The lashes are just a little bit too strong. And so when we talk, by the way, who was it? Someone was asking, who was it? Mr. Leanflake's asking, yeah, what's my favorite Stormgate unit? And I actually really like the Weaver. I think aesthetically, it's just like this Lovecraftian horror, right? It just shambles around. It just, the proportions aren't quite right. It's great. It's real. I think aesthetically, it's really cool. However, I also recognize that I think it's just a little bit too broken right now. Granted, of course, if it was not broken, I don't think Infernal would win a single game because the rest of our units are not very good. But it is just a little bit too strong right now. So it does beg the question, as we're going to see the V5 rocket launcher on the way here as well. It does beg the question in that what would we want to see? So Weaver, of course, I think you remove the stun. As Nightfall goes down, doesn't really land this V5 rocket launcher. Doing some friendly fire. I could have sworn that it didn't, but you know, it does. It does a lot of damage in general, though. This splash damage against this light army is actually just fantastic. So Weavers are starting to go down. The Exos will target them down. One will fall, and interesting. Sometimes we see the red targeting reticle, and sometimes we see the blue, and I'm not totally sure what the difference is. But for now, Weavers continue to get taken down here, and this V5 rocket launcher is causing significant problems. Now all the hedgehogs are dead, but we have quick draw hustle on these Exos as well, and well, that means they can just cut away for as long as they would like, as this V5 again puts pressure on the third base and well, attacks in. And the other reason why you get Exos versus Weavers is not only, right, can you have multiples of them, but also they don't have a ton of HP. And so paradoxically, they don't have a lot of HP, which means they are more tanky against a Weaver. Well, I guess they are equally as tanky against a Weaver. There we go. Nice dash goes and gets on top of the Weaver. And even if there's a lash here, yeah, this is going to get taken down. Vulcans generally are bad against Weavers. Vulcans in general are, Weavers are the counter, but when the Weavers are in this low numbers and the economy of Yoru is as bad as it is, adding in this Vulcan is a fantastic move. Now, you do have to be careful, and this Vulcan should have its cooldown, so you can also, there's some really cool tech that you can do that I don't know if Refresh is aware of, but there's some pretty cool tech you can do where the lash comes out and you can buffer the lash. The lash comes out and you can buffer the lash. So we didn't really see it happen right there, but if you dash at the right time, you actually go and you don't take, the lash doesn't really abduct you. For now, though, I don't know how much that really is mattering. Kinetic redirect, it's just a bio ball, and the Lancers are going to fall down. Yes, some of these were Nightfall infested, and that is a problem. Although, actually, as I say that, Yoru's doing a very nice job of holding on to this. The Gaunts are going to get on top of the Weavers, and, well, Gaunts versus Weavers, or not, excuse me, versus Weavers, Gaunts versus Exos are very good. That bonus splash damage versus light units is a pretty big deal. So you need to have Gaunts, you need to have Lancers, you got to have both of them. If you only have one, the bio ball just does not quite do what it needs to do. MS Storm saying, I think the friendly fire of the rockets is a lot less than enemy fire. I'll believe that. I think that is probably pretty accurate. I think that is probably, that's been my experience as well. I'm pretty sure in previous playtests, Monk told me verbatim in previous playtests that you didn't take friendly fire, but I don't know when they change. I know they have changed that. Certainly, it does friendly fire now, but yeah, it's not as much. It doesn't feel like it's as much. I don't know. For now, though, the kite continues, and Yoru, he's down about 30 supply. He does have his third base up. He's mining from that, and that's important. As this Nightfall is actually kind of gorgeous. The X is not really able to run the way they would like, and again, as these Gaunts get on top of them, no Reaper Rush just yet, to be clear. What's the status of that? It's 2/3 of the way done. Once Reaper Rush is done, well, it's a lot more of a problem now. This Shroudstone gets manifested, and while it does take a lot of damage from these Exos, you still do want to have to run away just a little bit. And as this Weaver's here, this Vanguard army is just gonna have to retreat back up. Now, there are 3 lashes in this army, so the Vulcans are not going to be all that great. But if you target fire the Vulcans, that means the rest of this army can fight very nicely. So yeah, sure, one Vulcan went down. That was expensive, but the rest of the army still fighting very, very strong. There should be another lash on this Vulcan, probably dashes away just a little bit, resets the position. There's the lash coming in once again, but again, now there's healing on this army. No Nano Swarm, but there's healing for the rest of this army. Now the Weaver will fall, and certainly everything's getting heated up. It's funny, when we talk about Vanguard, they're all about keeping their units alive, but they're also really about these long extended fights, which I guess is thematic, where you know, they want to continue to poke. They want all their passives to heat up. They want their Lancers to get 10 stacks of kinetic redirect and move much, much faster. They want their Exos to be all firing and have a quick draw hustle going, and all that together is just a very, very useful thing. So for now, as this kite continues, by the way, there is a third base done. There's a fourth base on the way. It looks like they're okay, that's the rally. Never mind. But there's a fourth base on the way. Refresh continues to power up. There's a high command. We have no helicarriers on the way just yet, it doesn't look like, but we'll have them eventually as he gets the money for it. Got the Therium, just doesn't quite have the Luminite at the moment. And man, helicarriers would go nutty in this game. 3 helicarriers bombing around on top of this army. Good night. I mean, already Yoru's in a horrible spot, and the Lancers getting on top of the back line. Well, that is a tremendous problem. We should point out, by the way, that there are no tier 3 upgrades despite high command being done. No mitigative guard, right? No survival protocol, but doesn't really matter because Refresh has done enough value in this early game that as this Magmadon stompies forward and gets just about nothing done, there's not a lot remaining for this army. Yes, you can go and you can drop a Shroud Stone, but absolutely not. Yeah, Yoru is gonna fall down. Gonna get all tied up, and that means that it's a best of 5 or 1-1. So now it's game 3, and this is the same opening from both players. Game 1 and game 2, game 3, they play the same way. Now, just because it's the same opening does not mean that it's going to be the same mid game, does not mean that it's going to be the same late game, anything like that. So it's going to be Barracks opening once again, but we see very quick Therium, and this could be for 2 things, right? This could be for Central Command, getting that pretty quickly. This could also be for that mech bait that we saw from Refresh in game number 2. That worked out for him very, very nicely. So for now, it's going to be, again, it's going to be the Scout. It's going to be the Lancer. They're taking the health cam. That is the efficient play, right? You don't really need much more than that. And I'm just keeping an eye on Refresh's Therium. What exactly is he going for in this game number 3? Now, of course, Yoru on the other side, it's double vault opening. And double vault, we talked about this a lot. It's a moderately greedy opening where you can go, right, and you can get creeps on the map, but you're not mining Therium for the most part, so you can get your natural still at a reasonable time while still putting pressure on the map. While I do appreciate like Shrine First builds and Conclave expands and things like that, I think this is probably the best build, probably the best Infernal build. At least theoretically the best Infernal build. Certainly, when you take a look at things, there are, you know, there's meta games to consider and how the best of 7 is going and things like that. But I think, like, if you're looking to ladder as an Infernal and you're looking to say, what build should I play? Double Vault Expand, I think, is the most stable. It gives you aggressive against Vanguard, you know, but it gives you aggressive options. It gives you defensive options. You can still get macro out of it, and you can, you know, sometimes just kill a Vanguard player if they're not quite where they want to be. So we're gonna see if that's gonna really get what it wants to get done right now. By the way, Refresh doing something very different in this game number 3. This is a quick hanger bait. Now it's gonna get scouted immediately, and that is maybe just a little bit annoying, but certainly, hey, it's gonna be fine. It's gonna get repaired. But these Lancers on the right side, I don't know how many of the speed cap Refresh was able to get, but got some. And these Lancers are just totally marooned, especially against a bunch of speed brutes, speed gaunts, or excuse me, speed brutes, speed fiends. They're just not gonna get away. Now there is a central command, so they're gonna get promoted as much as they can and last as long as possible, kill as many fiends as possible. But behind this, there is a Hornet on the way, and this is a harass build coming out of Refresh. He wants to get aggressive into his opponent's Luminite lines, into his Therium lines. That's the play. And, you know, this can kind of make sense, right? Because there's this high ground, low ground you can play around with, certainly. And also, given Yoru's propensity for double vault openings, it makes a lot of sense. You go double vault, right? You know, what's the downside? Well, what's the downside? You don't have any anti-air. That's the downside. So if you go double vault and Hornets pop out, well, you don't really shoot up. You got to have Shroud Stones. So unfortunately, this Lancer is going to get popped into a corner. That's not really all that great. And I think this Lancer, just on continuous move command is just going to die. That's not really what you want. So this Fiend run by, these 6 Fiends have been so impactful. Yes, there will be a Lancer done, and I would love actually, but okay, actually there's a Hornet here. So this run by is not going to accomplish a lot. Meanwhile, Hornet on the other side should be able to snipe this Hexen. Maybe. not gonna get the Hexen. Sharktopus TW saying this feels bad for the Vanguard. Yeah, you know, I tend to agree. I mean, I can see reasons why this would work, right? Hornets versus no anti-air can be very strong, but I feel like we're in this situation where Refresh has just lost too many units. It's kind of the story of it. And Refresh is only on one base. His opponent's on two. Fully, not fully saturated. 10 out of 12, close enough. So, you know, one base versus two is not great. Yeah, Hornets are out and they do have speed, so sure. And we're not making any more Hornets, so I would love to see the solar habitat now applied to the barracks instead, but I think he's actually just cutting everything to get his natural up. So what are we at right now? We got 2 Hornets. We got some Lancers, as the Fiends are just finding wherever they can find to get these. Oh man, they're being so freaking annoying. As the Fiend run by now tries to get on top of the command post, Bob's just gonna get really mineral walked into things, running away as much as they can, but they cannot overcharge because they're just, again, this base is not done. This is by far the most vulnerable time. Illuminite line is ever vulnerable. Meanwhile, into the main base. Okay, so Plague Axes are done. I don't see any Reaper Rush on the way just yet, but we are seeing damage get done here, right? We are seeing units die, but the Hornets are not nearly as giga broken as they were patches ago when they were just like two-shotting everything, and they did like 30 damage versus light. It was just disgusting. And then they also did double damage. It was significant pain. By the way, I said Plague Axis was done. I apologize. Plague Axis not even started. So that actually is something. Now it's halfway done. But again, Plague Axes, I expected them to complete. They're not. And now Refresh is on 2 bases. He's building Hornets again. He's getting himself up to 3, I think it is, as the Shroud Stone is manifested. Kills off one of these Hornets. Unfortunately, no return to hangar. That's not great. Let's see how much more this can get done. There's not a lot in the main base, and certainly, you know, again, we're gonna see these the imps are they die in like 6 shots. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. They die, you know, relatively quickly, all things considered. So certainly Plague Axes are done now, which means these Gaunts, they're able to do a lot more damage, right? That is very much the case, but Therium is being denied. The problem is there's just a bunch of stuff on the other side. There is just a bunch of stuff on the other side of the map, and I don't think this army beats this. I don't think Refresh's army beats what Yoru has in the extreme. Now, if he was able to go and get just insane damage done with these Hornets, sure, maybe. But as it stands, no, he's just getting kited away. This is just not going to find value. There is nothing here. Is Stormgate open for everyone? Nuno Viana asks. Yes, it is. Stormgate is free to play. You, of course, if you would like to, you can buy some pets that show up in your main base. You can go and buy campaign missions and co-op heroes and things. But the base game, certainly multiplayer, is free to play for everyone. But that means that Yoru is going to win this game number 3. And yeah, it was up 2-1. So now we've had our first couple games. We've seen Yoru just kind of, when he wins, just hit this really strong mid-game timing, early game timing, where Refresh not quite defensible enough, doesn't have a sentry post up, is kind of the story. And, you know, he just die. Refresh, though, sometimes he's the one that's able to get the damage done, right? He went for that mech bay play. That worked out very nicely for him. He got a bunch of Hornets, or not Hornets, excuse me, got a bunch of Hedgehogs, and got a lot of damage done, and then just was able to continue poking and keeping his opponent back, and eventually broke his opponent down, and it was fine. So Mr. Leanflake's talking about, I find it crazy that it takes so long to make fully customizable hotkeys. And so I've heard a couple explanations for this. Again, nothing's official from Frost Giant outside of we're working on it. It's going to take a moment. We're working on it. It is a bigger lift than you would expect. And, you know, knowing what I know a little bit about software design, so if you look at Zero, so Stormgate has made a big deal, and with good reason, I think, about their custom layer, their custom simulation layer called Snowplay, where that allows them to have rollback netcode and all of this stuff, and eventually, once they fix these performance issues, hopefully be very decently performant, do all this really cool stuff. that is not something that we're seeing, say, Zero Space do, I don't believe. Because Zero Space is that kind of counterexample of, oh, we just added custom hotkeys in one playtest. Like, in one patch. It was great. So, what I'm assuming is happening here. Now, I've heard one story that UE5 was supposed to provide really good support for custom hotkeys, and now they don't. And they keep promising, we're gonna have it, we're gonna have it, we're gonna have it. And when I say custom hotkeys, I mean in the total custom rebinding that we want for Stormgate, not just what we have right now. And it's just not there. It is something that Epic continues to not deliver. So now Frost Giant is going to have to go and hack it into the engine themselves. I don't know if that's true or not. That is one explanation I've heard. I'm also going to assume that there is, because they have this custom layer, right? They have Unreal and they also have Snowplay. They have this kind of custom layer that when they add custom hotkeys, there's going to have to be a bunch extra added in. So it talks correctly both to Unreal and to Snowplay. Again, these are just guesses. I don't know. But I'm gonna hazard a guess that because they have this extra execution layer, this extra engine effectively on top of Unreal, that is causing some problems, or that just makes it a lot more work to figure out. But for right now, Refresh is gonna go try to get on top, and he's not gonna get any of the health camps, but he will. Oh, that's so nice. He's gonna track the Hexen. He's gonna trap the Hexen, and that works out very, very nicely. This actually cuts down on the creeping. I mean, it's not the end of the world because the 3 primary camps that you want to take have already been taken, but it does cut down on creeps quite a bit as these Lancers are going to try to run in, and that is not the play. So they're just going to have to run out for now. This Lancer, once you pull back out of things, it's going to be fine, but yeah, he's not really going to be able to steal the speed camp. 5 Lancers versus 4 Brutes is just about equivalent as this one Lancer. There we go. Gets a heal on the healing fruit, but again, continues to have to kite away. But now we're looking at a significant number of Lancers versus Brutes. And again, once the Fiends pop up, who cares? They don't do anything. It's all about Lancers versus Brutes. And the Lancers are just kind of winning the fight right now. This is just, they're doing a very nice job. Now they're getting lower, and that is important to point out. So eventually, attrition might mean they get knocked down. And do we have... Oh, okay. I was going to say, do we have kinetic redirect? But no, there's a hangar bay. Done. So we're going to see Hornets getting at it into this. And this is Refresh pulling off the build that he wants to play much better than in that previous series. So now he's into the imp line. He's causing this chaos. His opponent doesn't know what's happening. There was no free scout into the main base by a big Fiend run by. So instead of being back against the ropes, not able to do what he wants to do, we're going to see Refresh, hopefully, if you're a Refresh fan, pull off what he wants to pull off in this series, which is, again, a lot of Hornets showing up on the other side, lots of harass, really keeping his opponent back while he's able to tech up into the next thing. Maybe high command, maybe quick helicarriers. I don't know. But as it stands, eventually these Lancers will fall down. There's not a lot. I mean, they're dead. There's nowhere for them to go. They're going to get popped into a corner, but even still, they're killing off a lot of Fiends. They've killed a reasonable amount of imps. Well, I mean, this is 5 imps on this on the base right now, so that's not great. And behind this, well, Lancers can... these Lancers should turn back. They dive into this Therium line, maybe. All right, okay, maybe this is gonna work out. They need a couple more shots to get the damage they want, and there we go. Now we're starting to see some of these Fiends go down, and importantly, notice what's happening. So we're seeing these attempted surrounds from a bunch of Fiends, but Refresh is doing a very nice job of making sure that he pulls the Fiends back, or the Lancers back. So one Lancer's always cutting a way out, even as the Fiends look for this surround, which is pretty dang cool. As there's I guess that is the first Hornet. I would love to see a solar habitat. I mean, otherwise, man, it takes Hornets forever. But as it stands, that's fine. As these Lancers play a ring around the rosy, looking for their pocket full of posy. But now there's a gap, so they're gonna dive into the main base, and the Brutes have absolutely lost them. Nuno Viana asking, so can I give a short brief about the game? Well, Stormgate is a real-time strategy game created by a lot of people of like ex-Blizzard people for the primary part, who especially for like the founders, Tim Morton, Tim Campbell, Jesse Brophy, James Anholt, were told, well, they wanted to make StarCraft 3, or apparently even like a COD RTS at Blizzard. They just like, we want to make another RTS, and Blizzard kept saying, yeah, no, a new RTS may make millions for us, but it's not going to make it's not going to make billions. So it's not going to make as much for us as a $90 World of Warcraft mount. you know. So we're not going to go for it, even if it is, you know, even if it will be good, it won't be, you know, as insanely profitable as it otherwise would be. So, you know, take that as you will. So they said, okay, I guess, you know, we're going to try this long enough. That's not going to happen. Let's go make our own studio. We're going to make another RTS. We're going to make a Blizzard style RTS. And we're going to see how this thing goes. So they're doing that. It is a very Blizzard style RTS. It's time to kill is somewhere between Warcraft 3 and StarCraft 2. You know, certainly some of the Warcraft fans say it's too much like StarCraft. Some of the StarCraft fans say it's too much like Warcraft. They got 3 factions. We're only seeing 2 play in this series. We will see the 3rd faction in our second best of 7. Stylistically, one might say that some of these are kind of like the StarCraft factions. You got the human faction, you got the red swarming faction, and you got the alien tech faction, but they play very differently. Vanguard plays reasonably differently from Terran. Infernal plays reasonably differently from Zerg, and Celestials plays reasonably differently from Protoss, all things considered. Other than that, it's just kind of a cool thing. They do have some pretty cool tech as well. They have this awesome quick macro panel, which I adore. It's so much better than kind of the macro setup for StarCraft. It's a nice little dive over the top here, getting some damage done with these Hornets. But on top of that, they've rolled back netcode, so it's a lot better, a lot easier to play cross-server. It's not perfect. You know, it doesn't solve, say, Europe to Korea perfectly, but it does a lot better. It really legitimately feels a lot better to play cross-server than it does in StarCraft by a wide margin. That being said, we will see these Hornets go down, and the Shroud Stone manifested. That's going to spend some Animus, and Yoru's going to force things back, sir, but he does take some damage. That's what are we looking at right now? We got 1, 2, we got 3 bases, we got 4 bases. I thought we were going for a 5th, but I guess this is the army instead. As I have a corgi beneath my feet who is being very cute. He got a little tennis ball and he's playing with himself. He's very, very cute. And these Hornets are just being obnoxious. They should eventually go down. I think, yeah, they're infested. So return to hangar is not really going to help out here. Promote might. Nah, this is dead, right? 7 seconds. It survives on 1 HP if it survives, but it survives on... Wow, I'm good. Meanwhile, we got a big Lancer attack coming in to this 3rd base location. They're tier 3. Not only do they have kinetic redirect, they got mitigated guard. They take 0 damage, but look at this trap. Gaunt's coming into the wall, so there's no way to get out for right now. Now they're going to find their way out, and again, mitigated guard is so good against these Vanguard, these Infernal armies, so it's actually going to be fine at the end of the day. And they're just going to dive right back on top of the Gaunts. And again, bonus damage versus light splash damage means that these Gaunts are absolutely goners. So yeah, they're going to be Weavers trying to pinch them in, but they're still fast enough here, moving around. And I think these Lancers may eventually die, but it's about just cost-effective trades at the moment. Just about cost-effective trades, making sure that you can find as much value from these Lancers as possible. Behind this, by the way, what do we got on production? Helicarriers. Okay. Already got 1 on the map. Bombing run is so very strong. Sometimes there's a targeting reticle. Sometimes you see where it's coming, but not always. It's a little bit bugged. But that does, of course, add to the strength where you're trying to figure out where in the world you need a split. And you can't see where the bombers are going to go. So that can be a problem. For now, though, I think these Lancers will eventually fall down. Refresh doing it, or you're doing his best to bracket them in, and we'll eventually be able to do so. So these Lancers should die. If these Brutes go try to attack them, I guess they're not going to, but the Lancers should die eventually. Yoru is on 4 bases. He's got this a double Therium setup as well, so his economy going like gangbusters. It's only, what do we want to call this? 3 bases, 4 bases for the Vanguard. You know, he got double Luminite right here, but his army in the late game can be so much more cost effective. So much more cost effective than anything that Yoru is going to have. Once you get to like Weaver, once you get to like Graven Helicarrier, it is very, very hard. Sleepy Bone saying, I work in game dev and this is my area. My intuition tells me that adding custom hotkeys is both very easy and very time consuming. Yeah, I'd buy that. Again, if we're talking about like these multiple layers of stuff, as that sentry bow's goes up and goes down very, very quickly. The attack's coming in from Yoru, by the way. He's got a lot of army right here, but again, 2 helicarriers, they're full on, well, I guess mostly full on bombers. 5 total bombers. Your bombing run's gonna go down. And again, we can see that issue where sometimes you can see the targeting reticle, but not always. That's a great Nightfall, though, landing on top of things. So this army on the ground is just kind of getting shredded. The helicarriers, I thought that was gonna be enough, and well, the bombing run was okay, but there's just so much stuff on the ground right now that is not quite punching through at the moment. Now, oh man, you don't want these med techs at the front. They're so important to this fight to make sure that your army just continues to stay alive. So for right now, first attack, the bombing run was okay, but we need to buy some time. We need more to pop up here. Of course, I think these are, yeah, they're getting repaired. They're getting returned to hangar, so that's not great. It means they can't really fight. Now, the other way to talk about this is these Shadow Flyers are going to go down, and that is so important. You do need anti-air. You need solid anti-air to go properly deal with these bombing runs, with these helicarriers, and with all those going down, that is a problem. Even still, Refresh, he's up in supply a little bit, but this is still a difficult hold. Meanwhile, of course, we got a bunch of brutes, we got a bunch of Gaunts absolutely wreaking havoc on this third base, and that's going to be a bunch of Fiends eventually as well, if we see the Shrouds or if we see the effigies get knocked down. So for now, big infest on the right side from the Dragon. Helicarriers are starting to join the fight once again. What's being made? Vulcan's getting added into this. Bombing runs are going to be a lot better this time. They certainly will be a lot better. But this helicarrier has to be very careful. The Dragon does a lot of damage, 90 damage a shot. So one of these helicarriers will fall down. A bunch of the Bobs have fallen, certainly on the left side as well. So the big deal is that Refresh, while his army is very good, very, very good, it's lost a lot of economy. He has lost a significant amount of economy. He's going to be able to clear this up, and sure, Yoru is going to have to go and back up and go again. But if we look at the setup again, Yoru, double Therium here. He's got the double Therium on the north side as well. He's got Luminite mostly fully saturated. He's on, what is this, 1, 2, 3, 4. He's on 5, 6. He's on 6 Luminite. He's on 6 Therium once he starts, fully saturates. His economy is insane. Yeah, that'd be interesting, Sleepy Bones. Again, we are totally guesstimating. We don't know I don't know how the stack works for Frost Giant. By the way, these Lancers are getting giga shots on these imps. In terms of, okay, why custom hotkeys are taking so long, but yeah, technically just spoof it, which might be what they're doing actually, where they just have to build a new UI layer that brings it all together, which might take a while. This is not a good fight, by the way. Taking a look at this setup, it's a full surround. It is a Shroud Fall bombing run on the left side, not really landing all that well. We're going to see these Weavers now. Certainly, with Nanoswarm, they survived quite a while. But the Vulcans do. But when you have these Weavers just mass lashing them, it's not going to work out. Nanoswarm gets dodged, though, and that's going to be okay. But I would love, and we don't have it, I don't think. I would love to see, I think Nanoswarm would be, or excuse me, System Shock would be great here. Getting the purges from these great big molten shots that are coming in from the Harbingers. But at this point, I want to say Refresh is kind of dead. Yeah, very dead in this game. And this means Yoru, he's won a couple of his opponent's maps now. He's up 3-1. As Clempe says, but Carl, that kills people. I'm so happy that enough of my friends who are on the internet back in like 2012 or whatever it was. So when I make a joke about having a hunger that only hands can satisfy, I met with a chuckle and not a Philip, do we have to lie? Like, asylums are no longer a thing in the States, but do we need to find one? Like, do you need a nice comfy jacket? Cannibalism is not okay. So it's met with humor instead of concern. And that's fine because they don't take me seriously, which means that when I consume their hands, they'll be none the wiser. So for now, we got a lot of creeping going on. For now, we got, again, this is the early game. And You know, we talked about, and I was talking about a little bit, about how I like creeps because, again, they force interaction. Theoretically, they force interaction and you know, force you to be on the map a little bit. Certainly on these 4-player maps, it's a little bit awkward as we're going to see the scout trying to dive in, but not really going to find all that much. So anyways, on a map like Furious Resolve, where there are so many creep camps away, we're not going to see a lot of interaction for the time being. And in fact, Refresh is doing something very different from the last 4 games of this series. He's gone for command post first. It means that, yes, you got that scout early on, but you don't have much else. And that is, you know, potentially vulnerable. Sentry post is on the way. The first Lancer is not done in time. So it's going to force an overcharge on these Bobs. And they don't have... Oh, scout is going to stay alive just barely. I mean, I think you hide this. Is there going to be repair? Yeah, nice body block. Okay, that's what's going to be. Nice body block there from the Bobs. Making sure that these fiends... Well, scout. Never mind. I'm just going to talk about how impressive it was, how good of a job Refresh has done to make sure the scout stays alive, and then it dies anyways, you know. Yeah, I really appreciate the active playstyle that doesn't punish you with Widow Mines, Banes, or Disruptors for looking away for a second. I think certainly the action economy is a thing, and there are compositions, there are things that do absolutely punish you for looking away for a second. Helicarriers. Helicarriers. But in general, I think that is true. But it also means that we can see some really, at the high level, we can see some really cool long fights. Like some really cool stuff. I think back to Laser versus Percival on Boneyard. The 2v2 that we cast last week between Theory plus Albino and Laser plus Mixu on Evergreen was just, we've seen some really cool stuff. So for now, we're just seeing a lot of creeping. The natural is just done at the moment for Yoru. So again, a lot more economy, a lot more mining for Refresh, a lot more creep money on the map for Yoru. And, you know, if I was really good, I would go calculate how much money each camp is worth and, you know, compare that to. And it's kind of hard to tell exactly which one's better at this point. You know, supplies are very even. Certainly, Infernal supplies can hit these weird spikes that are not quite a lie, but they're not quite a truth either. It's a little weird. Kind of hard to totally parse, as we do see nothing on the biolab just yet. And again, just a lot of brutes showing up, but 5 brutes do not bust this down. Not with mass repair. So we're going to see how well this thing works. And again, fighting into this buzzsaw turret is not going to work. Not at all. So the brutes, again, they're going to continue to poke and continue to have some fun and play around. As behind this, we should see a greater shrine on the way soon enough. We got a conclave done. That's always going to be really nice, but just this continuous kiting backwards. Eventually, again, we're going to take these the low lancers, whatever they are, and they're going to go back into the turret, and they're going to be fine. They're not going to die. And, well, then you go, and you're like, well, okay, Buzzsaw turret is really strong. So for now, a bunch of fiends are going to get out of this. They're going to go and oh, okay. They're going to go take the speed camp. And I was, okay. For a second, I was going to say they're going to go get the speed camp, and then they're going to get a really big surround. But it looks like that is not the case. And instead, it's just going to be an absolute ton of fiends taking these Shadow Demons down, which are, by the way, no longer bugs. At one point, they only did, they're supposed to do a lot more damage than they do. You know, now they're supposed to do 20 damage, and they were doing like 5. So they were just totally easy to take. But now, no, they do get claimed. Even if a bunch of fiends go down, that is a sacrifice that Yoru is absolutely willing to make. As behind this, Greater Shrine is done. But we have no upgrades. I see no Ritual Chamber. Yes, there's a third base getting started, but there's no Ritual Chamber until right now. There's no Hell Forge, nothing like that. So while the Conclave was made, this is not going to be for Gaunts for the time being. Instead, it's going to be for Weavers. And it's going to be for this Weaver Brute push that can be so very strong. Now, we should point out, as we take a look at this setup, that there is no Imp on the map that I see. There's no Shroudstone on the map that I see. Which means that this is not going to be the laser style push, where you put a Shroudstone like right here, and you creep them forward, of course, with Manifest, but also you just teleport your Weavers right into the fight. And it makes that... you are pretty all in. If you get pushed back, it's a problem. You've committed a lot to that. But it also means that you just have this incredibly powerful timing. Brutes rally across just fine, whatever, but more importantly, you know, you get the Weavers right into the thick of things just immediately, and it becomes a significant problem. But Sleepy Bones saying, I really feel like the optimal way to play StarCraft is to be on the map and being active, but it's almost physically impossible to play that way and not get deleted and lose for taking your eyes off it. Unless you're Clem. Because Clem has, I'm pretty sure, you know, we talk about like people with glasses, you know, the old joke is like, haha, 4 eyes. Because apparently we need to bully people for having glasses. Anyway. But I swear Clem has 4 eyes. He has 4 sets of hands. He has 2 monitors. And he's just everywhere at once. And it is fundamentally insane. So unless you're Clem, yeah, that is true. For now, though, these Weavers are way out of position. That's going to be a free Weaver at the very start. And, you know, it's funny as I look at this. So Weavers are strong because of the lash. They're strong because they are way too tanky, but also because you cannot surround them. As, by the way, V5 rocket launcher looking for some surrounds on the backside. Unfortunately, he's going to get distracted by this effigy, not really bringing their damage to bear. But Weavers also, they cannot be surrounded. So more often than not, this means that if Stealth Lancers try to dive on top of them, the Weavers could just run right back home and be totally fine with it. And you just, you know, run back behind their army. So Weaver's going to try to take the web way back home. Will die, though. That is 2 dead Weavers. Weaver out of position. Doesn't matter with 1 billion HP. Also because they can't be out of... Well, certainly if they're on Shroud, they can be. They can just walk back through their army and nothing can surround them. So I really do think, as I look at this, I think Shroud Walk or crowd walking, whatever you want to call it, I think that should be a thing with your own army. I don't think that should be a thing with the enemy. I really don't think that should be a thing with your opponent. I think that actually... yeah, I think that's just kind of a glaring thing. Yeah, I think that's just kind of a glaring thing. I think you should be able to surround Weavers. And maybe that doesn't make sense from the fantasy of the Weaver, where it's like, you know, it's this great big thing and just walks over everything. But I don't know. I feel like it makes enough sense that I kind of... Even if it doesn't make sense from like the universe perspective, from like a gameplay perspective, it's how I would expect it to work. So, although I guess that's not how that works for the Colossus. Anyway, big Nightfall goes down, but the Axes are still just shredding everything. They're moving right on through. This Weaver will eventually get targeted down. Yeah, we did see the Vulcan die, but it got some reasonable damage done at the start. And here's another Vulcan. Now the Weaver's dead, so the Vulcan just going to be able to shred as much as it wants. And you cut away with the X's for the rest part. Now, there are more reinforcements. There is a bigger rally here. So I think actually, I mean, it's funny. I look at this. On the one hand, I'm like, yeah, Refresh has to run away. On the other hand, Refresh's supply is massive. And there we go. Yeah, certainly Nano Swarm this Vulcan, and it just does not die. It won't die. Isma is back is saying, is Refresh player better known under a different nickname? No, well, period, dot. He is the #1 active Vanguard player on ladder. Certainly Denver is higher on ladder, but Refresh is, by RP, #1 active Vanguard player, and he comes highly recommended. PartinG's says he is very good. And certainly in these games that he doesn't just get run over by Infernal Aggression, he's been looking really solid. So if you don't follow the scene all that closely, you know, you may not be aware of him. But otherwise, you know, this is his competitive debut for the most part. And this is going to be a Refresh showcase. We see him play hopefully 7 games against Infernal and then hopefully 7 games against Celestials. As we see just how we can do against, you know, we don't want to see the mirror matchup right now. We'd rather show non-mirrors, but pretty much everything but the mirror, we're going to see just how good he is, as for now has to kite backwards. This army is big, but the Vulcans are doing a great job, and Nanoswarm means that even if this one gets lashed, it's not doing a lot. Now notice, certainly it's going to be the Vulcan that is Nanoswarm that gets lashed, so it's not AoE healing the other Vulcans, but when we're looking at 1 Weaver versus 4 Vulcans, yeah, there's just not enough lash damage, and Yoru is going to fall down once again. We get to move, at the very least, to map number 6. I said StarCraft fans. I meant Stormgate fans. We moved to game number 7. That Mistral, I almost do agree. I don't know. I play some Dota, and I keep expecting the projectiles to follow the teleport. But, you know, so it goes. Hold position bugs attacking. If the units aren't facing the enemy, it will cancel attack animations, so you lose DPS. Oh, okay. Does he know? I know that workers have range attack. Are we saying Yoru? Yeah, probably. Yeah, spending a resurgence there feels so bad. But Shroudstone was on cooldown. so there wasn't really anything he could do otherwise. I think he wins that if he A moves workers in the main instead of running. Maybe. Yeah, because you have the workers attacking over the top. I mean, it feels bad to lose that much mining time. That is very much the case. By the way, of course, if you want to support this show match and the next one, there's a Matcherino going for this. Exclamation mark Matcherino in the chat. We'll go and take you there. Also, if you want to support me, first of all, obviously you can sub on Twitch. You can join as a channel member on YouTube. Gives you some emotes in live chat. And again, it gives me actually a higher cut than on Twitch subs, which is very, very nice. But also, if you go exclamation mark Monopoly Go, we'll play a little bit at that, a little bit of this at the end because this is going to be a sponsored stream at the end of these 2 best of 7s. But you play for about 15 minutes, and you just click the roll a bunch of times. It's fine. You play for about 15 minutes, and you can go and it gives me $3, which is roughly what a Twitch sub gives me, and it's 15 minutes of your time versus actually paying. So, you know, depending on how much your time is worth, that's a pretty solid solution. Dimps would have added about 40 DPS to that fight in the main. Valid. Yeah, I think it might have worked out. Certainly when once the brutes went down, it became much more difficult. So now we move into Titan's Causeway, our last map in this series. This, of course, is technically loser pick, but this is the last map available, so you know it is what it is. We're gonna move into that very soon, and then of course this is only our first best of 7 of the day. So once this is over, we're gonna take a brief break again to clear ads, and then we're gonna be moving into Nina versus Refresh for our second best of 7 of the day. And Refresh been looking very good, but I've been promised that he can make Celestial versus Vanguard look good. So I was told specifically, yeah, Nina versus Refresh sounds like a good matchup, according to Parting. Again, I'm totally new to Refresh. I don't know how good he is or he is not. Again, I know he is number 3 on ladder right now. Or excuse me, number 3 Vanguard on ladder right now. But what exactly that means, I don't know. For now, though, we're gonna move into game number 7. Titan's Causeway is that map. So now spawning into Titan's Causeway, it's a game 7. We've seen a lot of the same ideas from Refresh time and time again. Sorry, Yoru, time and time again. He goes for this double vault. He gets active, tries to snow his opponent in early. If it doesn't work, you know, you move into Weavers. You go from there. Refresh has shown us some very different ideas. Refresh has shown us some very he's gone a quick hangar bay build that I didn't think it was very good. He went command post first on Furious Resolve. That worked out fairly well for him. He's gone for this barracks mech bay idea, right? Lancer Hog. That's worked. He's actually won both games. He's gone for that. So I think what we're learning here is, as long as he goes and doesn't play too greedy, and by that, well, it doesn't play too greedy, it doesn't get his units cut out on the map, which is, you know, always a bit of a challenge. Sleepy Bones asking, do people like this map? Because I'm not sure if I like it or I hate it. And the answer is, I hated it in the first iteration. I thought Titan's Causeway, like the pre-alpha map, the map that we had for a while, was not very good. It was way too short, way too small, way too aggressive. I didn't like it very much. I do like this map though. It is kind of hard to take a third base, and that can be dicey. And there's not a lot of Therium available, so that's kind of a problem. I think every base should have a Luminite and a Therium setup, unless it's like I'd say double Luminite, double Therium or something. But I think that is just as an Infernal player, the lack of access to a third Therium patch easily is really, really painful. But I think, other than that, I think it is a pretty good map. I think it has improved significantly from where it was. For right now, Lancer's gonna fight these brutes, but with the Fiends here, and certainly now that the speed camp is here, I think they're just gonna have to run away. They might have overstepped their welcome just a little bit, but nice shots there, making sure these Lancer blades, these foe splitter blades, because, you know, we gotta go be extra grimdark about it, but these foe splitter blades got a really nice shot on the Fiends. And now, well, another Fiend is going to go and try to go and knock this down. But hey, there we go. The Hog's on the map. And to take a refrain from another game that I've been casting and playing a lot of, Hogs never lose. If you're a Supervive guy, you'll know what I mean. If you're not, well, you should play Supervive. It's a lot of fun. That being said, now there are still a lot of brutes and a lot of Fiends running onto the other side of the map here as Yoru tries to take advantage of this speed pressure that he has, and we're only on one Hedgehog. Hedgehogs don't fire continuously. They need to get their rockets back, and that does slow things down quite a bit. So even though technically this army is good from Refresh against what Yoru has, that rush distance is causing problems. And by the way, there's no Lancer in production tab at the moment, so that's a little bit dicey, as now we will see these brutes continue to go down. Certainly, yes, there's going to be infest, so this Hedgehog is not going to die from this, but we'll take some damage. But now, as Lancer's here, Hedgehogs continue to kite away. Lancer is just running. I mean, I'm get some shots off, I think. Where are we at on our third Hedgehog? Not there just yet. Third Lancer, second Lancer, not there just yet. But again, once you can retreat back to the Bobs, and certainly there's no overcharge available because, well, promotion was used to keep these units alive. But now that we're looking at 3 Hogs, I don't think this is going to do all that much anymore. It was very scary. For a second, it did look like Yoru was just going to snow refresh right over, just knock him down before anything really happened. But now we're looking at 3 Hedgehogs, and 2 of them are heavily promoted. Right, that is a lot of damage now. 13 damage. Actually, 6.5 range, even without transonic rockets. They shoot far, they shoot fast. And Mixu asking, will Yoru make a turret at home? I don't know. And also saying, I think if he hit the skull, the first skull on the low HP Lancer, it was GG. And yeah, I think that's fair. That Lancer stayed alive for a lot longer, killed off a lot of the Fiends. And as it stands now, Hedgehogs are going to try to chase this back home, and the answer to Mixu's question is no. There is no Shroud Stone now. Will there be a Shroud Stone manifest? He has the energy. He has the Animus for it. So it looks like there should be a Shroud Stone manifestation if needed. Ideally, you're going to go try to kind of like convince your opponent to dive in, and then you drop it behind them so they don't really have much of a choice and they get trapped in. But the other problem here is, well, these Hedgehogs are just playing on the edge. They don't have to dive too deeply until they kill off everything. And yeah, the Conclave is very, very elite. Now the Shroud Stone is going to get manifested. But again, yeah, well, actually, that's my answer. We have the Greater Shroud none because the Shroud Stone's manifested. But no Weavers on the map just yet. And these 4 Hedgehogs, they are a problem. They're heavily promoted. They're high veterancy. And they're just playing on the edge of things. This Shroud Stone manifest, it doesn't last all that much longer. Now, you do have to be careful. There's a Weaver on the high ground. Lashes that tier 3 Hornet. You're going to take that thing down. So that is... We're not going to end the game like we saw in that last one. Refresh is not going to lose the game in the first, or Yoru's not going to lose the game in like the first 5 minutes, which is pretty nice for him. Again, he is pushed back just a little bit. Certainly, you know, he can't take his third base as quickly as he would like, but he's fully saturated in the natural. You know, he's going to go take his third base. He's got Weavers out. And, you know, this is fine. It's not optimal, but it's fine. And certainly with as the Weavers pop out yet more, well, this is not an army that ever wants to stay in range of Lash, because if you do, this tier 3 Vulcan, this 360 HP, not Vulcan, excuse me, the Hedgehog, the Hedgehogs, they just get lashed. These high tier units, they just get removed from the fight. And because, well, veterancy gives you more HP, the Lash does more damage. It's very simple. And that does mean that, well, actually, as we take a look at this fight, though, this army is bigger. If you can clear the brutes, well, actually, what am I saying? The Weavers have like infinite HP, so I'm not even sure that that's the case. I was going to say, you know, if you can clear the brutes, the Weavers may eventually die. But I'm not quite so sure. But I like what we saw Refresh do there. He clicked on this Therium camp and then pulled away, dropped aggro, which meant that, well, the Weavers actually took some damage, which meant that the Infernal Army took some damage. But for right now, you know, we're going to back up. No third base on the way just yet. We got Quick Draw Hustle getting added in. Second mech base, so... What are we looking at? What's being made here? Nothing. Okay. It's weird. I look at this and I see the lava and I'm like, that's the production animation. It's not the production animation. I'm being lied to. But it's fine. So, for now, Therium Camp is going to get taken down by Refresh. Yoru has his third base most of the way done. As Isma is back and saying, yeah, Refresh is very good. So too is Yoru. This is a matchup that, I mean, yeah, my thumb's on the scale a little bit to give us 7 games by saying, yeah, it's loser pick. But other than that, this matchup's pretty solid. Now, Refresh should mine with these bobs. These are 5 bobs not doing anything, and that is a little bit of a missed opportunity. Not exactly what you want to go for, but for now, he's going to go take the speed camp. Of course, level 1 camps were nerfed pretty heavily. They're not worth a ton of money. Level 2 camps are worth more than they used to be. So very important now that Refresh is going to be able to run across the map, take all these level 2 camps, at the very least, you know, the ones they took earlier on, the slime camp, the speed camp, things like that. And I'm surprised we haven't seen anyone. I guess the answer is going to be Yoru, but I was going to say I'm a little surprised we haven't seen anyone try to take the Luminite camp in the center. But for now, I guess that's not going to happen. And what do we have? 4 Weavers. They each have at least, what is this? 3 lash or 2.5 lashes, 2 lashes, 3 lashes, almost 4 lashes. Yeah, there are too many lashes for this army of Refresh to fight right now. Hello, Arail. Arail. You put the pronunciation guide in my Discord, and I have totally forgotten. But hello, Poland's best Celestial player. But this position on the high ground with double Vulcan here, this is a little bit scary. Now, you do have to worry about the lashes, absolutely. But again, you can kind of dash out of them for the time being. And if you're lashing Hedgehogs, you're not lashing Vulcans. This army now is going to go in, and certainly Vulcans are going to get lashed for, but they're just pulled into the army. One's going to dash away, look to reset that concave. But again, the Weavers, the count is too high right now. Moving into these Vulcans, this just has to run away. There is nowhere for it to run. And now Yoru down in supply a little bit, but I think the quality of this army is just a little bit stronger. And we don't have med techs, I don't think. Do we have, where's our... We don't have any med techs, we don't have any healing. There is a flak cannon, there's a flak turret that's going to go down, so that is actually a lot of range splash damage that's going to get added into this fight. And this third base, with all the SimCity, is going to be pretty difficult to break, all things considered. So, yeah, sure, we have a bunch of gaunts coming in from the backside. That actually is kind of a bad idea. Yeah, it does mess with the target fire just a little bit, but not a lot of gaunts. And they're kind of dying. So for now, this flak turret is doing so very much. We will lose one of the bunkers, or we'll lose one of the barracks. So producing into the front line's not really going to be a thing. And there's no, oh god, there's no repair on this flak turret. So this flak turret is going to go down. More X's are going to try to find their way in. But at this point, Baby's getting put in a corner, and that is not where you want to be. But now, okay, so Weavers are starting to get low, and Vulcans are getting added into this. Of course, Vulcans do bonus damage versus light. Not a ton, but they do enough. The second sentry post is here. The second flak cannon getting damage done, not falling at the moment, even with the percentage damage from the Weavers. The Vulcan's still firing strong. The splat, or the stun doesn't quite do enough. And as we take a look at this fight is still very even. Somehow that flak turret stayed alive, and now the Vulcan dashes away just a little bit more, separates from this Weaver that now, with no shroud, is very, very slow. I was convinced, I was utterly convinced that Refresh had just lost the game there, that push was going to kill Refresh, but he had the second flak cannon in a corner, made sure he was okay. And now, let's take a look at where we are. This is only Central Command. There is no High Command. So we're not going to have Graven on the way. We're not going to have helicarriers getting added into this just yet. But it is going to be a lot of Vulcans. It's a lot of Exos. It is a reasonable army, but again, the Weaver count continues to grow. Yoru, he's on 5 bases now. Call it 6 almost, because you have the... or he's on 5 bases, excuse me. 4, call it 5. With the double Luminite, but doesn't really have a lot of access to Therium. He's trying to take this double one right here, and I think this should just get punished. This is way too close to Refresh's base. I think this probably just dies. And this is the problem with this setup, where if you go on the base, yes, there is a Therium base here. And by the way, no shrine on this Therium patch, so it's very inefficient Therium mining. So again, that's the case. Eventually, as we see Yoru, 500 Luminite, 150 Therium, give or take. If he cannot find another source of Therium, he loses this game. Long and short of it. That's just how this works. You need Inferno late game is so Therium expensive that it is really important. So Nightfall is going to be pretty good on these bobs, but Mass Repair is going to be there, and that Rampart that reinforcement doesn't really do much of anything. But now again, we're going to see lashes on a lot of these high-tech units, pull them right into the army. But hey, Bubble Boy on one of these dashes back a little bit, keeps him alive. Is there a repair? The answer is not going to be, oh no, there is a repair right at the front line. This Vulcan is lasting so very long. And that is actually a beautiful fight for Refresh for the moment. Now he's going to run out of it, but runs right back to the flat cannon. Multiple Vulcans still here. No nanoswarms available for the moment, but we do have Bobs tanking as well as they can. And even as we see this lash forward is killing the Vulcans, the damage that is being done by Refresh is more than enough. And despite this composition being technically very good, very, very good for the Infernal player, the break's not going to be there. And again, we're seeing this lack of Therium. That is the problem. Yoru does not have the ability to reinforce in the way that he would like. He's got all this Luminite, but are you going to spend it on Brutes? That's not, I mean, Brutes are useless. I mean, they're not useless, but Brutes are not great. Not against a bunch of Exos. So life does become very complicated. Now, you do have to be careful because there is still a Weaver here, and the Vulcan count's not insane. I don't know if medtechs, where is our biolab? Where is our biolab? I'm assuming we have medtech adept training done. That's the assumption. So I would choose to believe that we do have a nanoswarm available now. Sleepy Bones just saying, walk 14 Brutes into the third. You know what? I would be behind that if he had Brute upgrades. If he had Soul Forge, if he had I forget what the tier 3 one is, but if he had those upgrades, right? That means that Fiends do more damage like the 10 seconds after they split. That means that when you split your Brutes, you get 3 Gaunts or 3 Fiends instead of 2. Those are very valuable upgrades in the late game because it means these run-bys can do a lot. But we don't have those. There's no Hellforge that I see. And again, that's just a bit unfortunate because now Refresh is going to get on top of this very important Therium setup. Now, you have to be careful, dash back a little bit. Again, you don't want to be in range. You really don't want to be in range of these Weavers, but we're looking at only 3 Weavers. That's not a lot. It really is not a lot in that. Well, I guess there's 4. So that's a little bit more reasonable. We will see. There we go. Abduct goes forward, but the bubble on the first one that gets lashed is a big deal. Now we're going to see Effigy get targeted down as well. So again, if you're off Shroud, the Weavers are so slow and these Lancers moving forward. They don't have kinetic redirect. I don't know if there's tier 3 available. Nightfall goes down. It's a beautiful Nightfall. Slows down so much here. Shroudfall as well, because tier 3 is done. This has to be the fight. Fiends are starting to get generated. Vulcans are gonna run away. Where are the lashes? Now they're gonna start to arrive. But even still, this Firebase is going so nutty, so strong. And now the Vulcan's starting to get damage from another angle. The Dragon's gonna add their damage in. This has to work out for Yoru, and it seems like it absolutely is. He bought enough time. He got himself the Therium that he needed, and this army is getting evaporated. It looked so good for Refresh until it didn't. Until it didn't. And Yoru, behind pretty much the entire game, gets the fight that he needs and takes the series 4-3. Now, of course, if you like this and you want more Stormgate action, make sure to sub to the YouTube channel. If you want to support me monetarily on YouTube, there are, of course, channel memberships available as well. It's like a Twitch sub. You get some emotes. You can add them, I want to say, in the YouTube comments as well. You get a separate section where your comments, they show up a little bit more. I'll make sure to answer those, certainly. But also, go follow me on Twitch so you catch everything live. And I'll catch you next time, certainly every Sunday, for Stormgate Sundays. See you there.